Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. The
Kyushu
2022 Banzuke has come out for real. Now, what we're going to do in this video is talk about the differences between the official Banzuke and our Guess the Banzuke selections. The ones that are marked here are the ones we got wrong. The ones that are not marked, we got right. If you want to know why any of those wrestlers are at their ranks, you can watch the Guess the Banzuke video or take it on faith that the math worked out and they're where they're supposed to be. Now, let's start at the top. Kiribayama and Tamawashi. This one's pretty straightforward. Kiribayama was 9-6, Tamawashi was 13-2. Tamawashi was pretty much ranked higher than God. And the question was, will Tamawashi be ranked above Kiribayama in the Banzuke because the math says he should be, or will Kiribayama get that little promotion from Komusubi 1 West because he was already there, he had 9 wins, he had a good basho, and they're going to show him that little bit of favor. Well, they showed the favor to Tamawashi. There's nothing very strange about that. I think pretty much everybody was expecting this to go to Kiribayama, but now that it didn't, we know that for next time we can take that into consideration when picking future Banzukes. Ichinojo and Midori Fuji is a situation that's a little bit unusual. So we were right about Wakamoto Haru going to 4
East.
And in fact, the situations that I suggested, which were what I have here, Midori Fuji going to 3 West, Ichinojo going to 4 East, and then Wakamoto Haru going all the way up to 2, or just Wakamoto Haru and Ichinojo flipping, those seemed like the 3 options, like the only 3 real options, and yet the Banzuke committee managed to come up with a 4th, just flipping these 2 guys. It's a little surprising, it's actually a lot surprising, because as I've said many times, 7 and 8 wrestlers going down 2 ranks just doesn't happen. It is shocking. It's not completely unheard of, but it just does not happen anymore unless there is absolutely no choice. And there clearly was a choice here. The math, quote unquote, there is some suggestion that people dropping from Komusubi are given a little bit of padding, but I don't know that there's a lot of really hard evidence for that. A 7 and 8 wrestler going down 2 to save a Komusubi from getting the calculated drop he's supposed to get, the 3-rank drop he was supposed to get, is really, really surprising. Midori Fuji belongs to Izagahama stable, and the guy who runs Izagahama stable is in charge of the Banzuke committee. So sometimes it looks like he'll occasionally let his guys take drops that maybe other wrestlers wouldn't in order to keep the peace. Maybe there's a little bit of politics at play here. I don't know. That could be what happened here. He's like, well, you know, I don't want to make it look like I'm favoring my guy, but it wouldn't have, which is why I'm so surprised this happened. It's a very rare instance where you've got a Komusubi dropping at the same time as somebody from, you know, High Maegashira. This is the kind of thing that doesn't happen very much. I don't know that we'll be able to use this as a precedent very often, but it's good to know that it happened so that we know it could happen in the future. Ryuden and Nishikigi is just question mark central. This is whack as hell. Ryuden was 1.5 ranks above Nishikigi by the math. Now there's a thing called joy bias. Remember, joy is J-O-I. That's the top 16 wrestlers in the Banzuke, and Nishikigi was one of them. Ryuden wasn't. He was down at Maegashira 12. All the same, that is not generally something that it takes this much of an effect. Nishikigi was way below Ryuden by the math. There was no reason why he should end up ahead of Ryuden at 6 East with Ryuden at 6 West. Is it really material? Does it matter that much in terms of the next basho? No, not really. It's just kind of astonishing on an aesthetic level. Like, in a lot of cases, the exact rank on a half rank level doesn't matter that much for these guys, but they're still supposed to get the correct rank so that we can see exactly where they stand relative to their peers. And the idea that Nishikigi is ahead of Ryuden is kind of nuts. Tochinosin, now a lot of people thought that Tochinosin was going to drop a half a rank just because He was already 7 and 8 and stayed in place once. They weren't going to let him do it twice. That made a lot of sense. The fact that I didn't move him again, I believe, put me in the minority, and I was wrong. Everyone else was right and I was wrong. Okay, that's fine. What's really shocking, though, is that everybody else that had Tochi going to 8 West correctly had Tochinosin coming to 8 East. They just flipped those two guys. So we need to bring Abi into this a little bit. So the idea was that if Abi goes to 10 East, which was the most common guess, I don't know if it was a majority of people, but it was the most common guess. If Abi goes to 10 East, you've got Tochi, Tochinosin, Takara Fuji, and Aoyama at 8 and 9. Takara Fuji and Aoyama were behind Tochinosin and Tochinosin, right? So clearly Tochinosin and Tochinosin have to be at 8. So if Tochi is going to take a rank drop, Tochinosin is going to go up. But they decided Tochinosin has to stay behind Tochinosin, which means Takara Fuji gets to go up to 8 East. Takara Fuji getting that reprieve is the strangest part of this. However, I would suggest that the logic here is not that Takara Fuji deserves to be at 8 East, but that they decided, one, Tochi has to go down, right? Tochinosin needed to drop at least a half rank, so they put him at 8 West. And then two, Tochinosin has to stay below Tochinosin. Now, is that correct? Is that fair? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say so. Moving Tochinosin up to 8 East would give him a 2.5 rank jump on 8 and 7. That's by no means excessive. People have done that plenty of times in the past. The idea that that was unacceptable is a little weird, but if you take that as their theory, then Takara Fuji has nowhere to go but 8 East. Except Abi could go wherever they wanted to put him. Now, as we discussed in the Guess the Banzuke video, 10 East has been the norm. This is where the most people put him. If you decide that Aoyama must, absolutely must, go -3, that will put him at 10 East in Abi's supposed slot. Okay, if you go from there and then say Abi has to stay close to 10 East, so we'll do the little tilde thing, which means about, then the next spot is 9 West. Okay, fine. And then Takara Fuji should still be at 9 East, because if he and Aoyama calculate to the same spot, splitting them up by a full rank, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of reason here, but at least there's a suggested logic in this setup. But by doing it the way they did it, by putting Takara Fuji from 5 East to 8 East, and Aoyama from 7 East to 10 East, you have two guys who were 2 ranks apart, now staying 2 ranks apart, even though one of them had a worse record than the other. That really never happens, and it's a very strange set of circumstances. What they seem to have done was make decisions completely independent of each other. In this case, we want Aoyama to go down 3, we'll just put Abi at the next closest spot, which is 9 West, and then we want Tochinosin to go down, and we want Tochinosin to stay behind him. That puts Takara Fuji at 8 East, but that's almost the only way Takara Fuji ends up at 8 East. So this would be a situation where I don't think they took the whole set of decisions into account together, and they really probably should have, and I think we expected them to do that more so than was actually the case. Finally, we can go to Kodashoho and Onosho. These two are pretty straightforward. They did not finish too far apart in calculation. Onosho was tied with Kotoeko, which is part of the reason why I left it the way I did. Kodashoho, then Onosho, then Kotoeko. But they decided Kodashoho needed to drop a half rank, and really the only way to do that is to flip him with Onosho. So that's what they did. Okay, fine. A lot of people guessed that. A lot of people figured that was going to happen. So I give them credit. I was simply wrong on that. The question marks here are really Takara Fuji, Nishikigi, and Midori Fuji. If you go through this and you want to say to your friends, man, I don't understand how this Banzuke turned out, and you want to sound smart, question those three more than anything else. And that's our rundown for the official
Kyushu
2022 Banzuke. We'll have some more videos for you between now and the Basho. See you soon.